The way things are. First, they try to break you with grinding poverty. Then they try to break you with empty fame. If you will not be broken by either, then there are natural methods, such as the usual diseases, followed by an unwelcome death. But most of us are broken long before that, as it's meant to be. By earthquake, flood, famine, rage, suicide, despair, or simply by seriously burning your nose while lighting a cigarette. It's kind of a short one. I'll bet you want another one. I'll bet you're out there. I want another one. Here we go. A wise ass. That's what I was on campus. Some of the professors, I'm sure, feared me, or at least preferred that I was not in their class. I had a scarred and lean countenance, and I slouched in my seat, hungover and dangerous. I refused to buy the assigned books or study. I was insolent, cool, and crazy, and I drank and fought every night. My parents supported me out of fear. I was the meanest 18-year-old son of a bitch in the world. I would leap up in class and make incoherent speeches, challenging whatever the professor had just said. I was a pain in the ass and I thought I was tough, but I was afraid to go out for the football team or ask a girl for a date. I guess I was crazy. All I read was Nietzsche and Schopenhauer. I was talking journalism and art classes, and when they asked us for one writing assignment a week, I wrote 7. Some said I was a genius. I felt like a genius, or I felt like I thought a genius should feel. One day I got in a fight after art class with the 200-pound fullback of the football team. We fought for 30 minutes on the campus lawn. Unfortunately, nobody stopped us. I finally won, although I never expected to. I kept waiting to lose, and it didn't happen. Then, I began to get popular, and I couldn't take that, so I pretended to be a born-again Nazi. Then I got a lot of freaky guys full of hate trailing after me, so I told them to fuck off, and I became the school recluse. I don't know. After 2 years on campus, I didn't want it anymore, so I quit and got a job in the railroad yards as a laborer. I rented a small room downtown and roamed the streets at night. Some genius I was, some goddamn genius. I made several trips to the Herald Examiner and the LA Times, and I told them I wanted to become a reporter. I never made it past the receptionist's desk. Fill out these forms, they said. I shoved them back. They didn't know I was a genius. One night, in a bar, I got in a fight with a little guy. He must have raised 130 pounds. He whipped my ass. The next night I tested him once more. He whipped my ass all over again. A week later, I took a bus to New Orleans. Somewhere along the way, I bought a book by some famous guy called Hemingway. I couldn't read it. The fucking guy couldn't write. I tossed the book out the window. A girl on the bus kept staring at me. She turned in her seat and made a sketch of my face. She wrote her address on the back of the sketch and got off at Fort Worth. I went on to Dallas, got off, caught a shave, showered at the Y, took a bus back to Fort Worth where I found her. I sat in the front room with her while her mother sat in the bedroom. We talked a long time. It was great. She was beautiful. Then she held my hand and started talking about God, and I got the fuck out of there. I took another bus to New Orleans. I had a portable typewriter with me. That's all I needed to prove I was a genius. That and another 35 years. There we go. Charles Bukowski, sifting through the madness for the word, the line, the way. Poems you probably wouldn't like. Too bad. Good morning, Bitcoin, and welcome to this episode of Bitcoin Talk Show. Today is Sunday, September 9th, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up 3.05% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,382, a high of 6,441, and a low of 6,140. That's $1 for 15,690 Satoshis, just on the other side of the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. Checking out the top 10 altcoins weighted weighted against Bitcoin, sorted by volume, something like that. Ethereum down about 1%, Bitcoin Cash down about a quarter, EOS up 4.5%, Ethereum Classic down about a quarter, Litecoin up 1%, Dash up 1%, Ripple is even, Qtum down 1.25%, and Zcash is even, rounding out the top 10. Checking out the top 5 distributed applications, IDEX is down to 1,500 daily active users, while Fork Delta is under 1,000. In the under 500 club, we've got CryptoKitties, Ethereum and something called DAI Stability System. DAI Stability System. Checking out the top 10 most active blockchains, EOS, BitShares, and Steem, followed by Ethereum, still 80,000 unconfirmed transactions, and Bitcoin, who has 41% of the blocks full. Look at the poor bitch. The bitch has fallen to 12th place with only 20,000 activity. In the scum is Literange, Litecoin, below Litecoin and Doge, near something called SCR, and just above Dash, who only has 6,000 activity points. Checking out the World Crypto Network, where we had more shows yesterday for you to watch. It looks like Max has finished up at the Hayek Summer Workshop, so you can check those out if you're interested in Hayek. We've also got Max interviewing Stephen Livera right here on the channel, talking about Bitcoin and its inelastic money supply. But let's go to yesterday's Bitcoin talk show and get to everyone's favorite part of the show, yesterday's comments. Yesterday's comments. Racer X wrote back, he says, The Diet for a New America is a book about vegetarianism. He says it's written in an even-handed and non-hysterical way. He lays out the facts in a dispassionate voice, and it's inspiring to the point that making such a big change is easy. Thank you, Racer X. And Roy, who also mentioned the book, wrote in and said, right, just Google John Robbins. Wikipedia's fine too, and let the story grab you. The man did the research. I never read the book, but the old video alone was enough to convince me. I just needed a slight push, and then I told myself, okay, done. No more excuses. And Penn is kind of telling me the same thing in his book. He ate nothing but potatoes for 20 days, lost a lot of weight. Then he ate corn and several other things. But what he allowed himself to do was to reset his stomach. What Penn said basically is a lot of meat bacteria and other things get in your stomach, and then you get used to eating that way. But if you can reset your stomach, suddenly you can go back to eating plants. Whole plants is what he was saying, number one, and that they'll actually taste good, and that when you go back to eating meat and sweets, they'll taste bad. What we've done is we've accumulated our guts to get used to eating this bad stuff. Then we keep eating bad stuff, and we're fine. So Rad Vladdy knows everything and tells you humans were created to not eat meat, just saying. Or they weren't created. All right, well, I don't know. I'd be careful if you know everything. And looks like people are having a good chat about different options on how to eat and why to eat. Crypto Volta says, so being the focus of one of the most blatant witch hunts in political history is above the law. Yet those who literally broke the law, I can think of a recent presidential candidate and a late senator, are A-OK. So Crypto Volta, once again, I would refer you to the courts. And I would say Papadopoulos pled guilty. Flynn pled guilty. Manafort pled guilty. I know you don't believe this now, but later when we learn everything that's been happening behind our backs, you're going to have to change your mind because of the new information. There's a new movie coming out. They were talking about it on the Real Time with Bill Maher show. Basically, they're going to lay out all of the deals that our president has been doing since the 1980s, going back to when he sold 5 condos in Trump Tower to Russian mobsters. For those of you who don't know, the Russian mob or oligarchs is essentially an extension of Putin. So if you take Russian mob money, you're really taking Russian government money. But it's okay. You don't have to take my word for it. The facts will speak for themselves. And again, guilty, guilty, guilty. And there'll be more. Lachlan writes in to tell us that Elon Musk actually does a lot of engineering at SpaceX and Tesla. He said that no one else he could find was good enough to build the first SpaceX rocket, so he spearheaded the engineering himself. I didn't know this about Elon, and I'm very impressed. I'm totally blown away. Mainly, I know him as the X.com guy because I read a book about PayPal. So I haven't read the Elon Musk autobiography, but I am interested. I almost picked it up a couple of times. BL Dewyan says, yet another great issue of the program. Keep up the good work, Mad Bitcoins. Thank you so much. MS Bitith says, hey, Thomas, burn over. Was awesome. How are you? And I'm doing good. I missed the burn, but I did get to watch a couple of cool videos about it. Looked like some incredible art. And it was neat to see all my friends' photos who went. It was really cool. Natty Bumpo, he thinks that most of Washington thinks it's above the law, kind of Mr. T's point, even if ironic. Well, isn't it ironic? He committed several crimes. Then he became president and claimed that he was above the law. I'm sad to reveal to you that the presidency is not a get out of jail free card. It's not like a finish line of a race where you can cheat as much as you want, and when you get to the finish line, there's no consequences for the cheating because you get the get out of jail free card. It's just not like that, and it's not going to end that way. You guys can watch. IBLB reminds us to Roger that it was not real. The Bitcoin Cash surge in activity was a stress test, right? They were fake transactions. And the problem now is that Bitch has fallen to 12th place with hardly any activity at all, as if the fake transactions were all they had. Bad news. Rad Vladdy says, you said socialists care about others. That's funny. Socialists believe in taking things from people at the threat of putting them in the cage. Doesn't sound too caring to me. Sounds downright horrific and evil. Well, that's like a funny thing because it seems like capitalism is a system of winners and losers. And if you lose, they just let you die. That doesn't sound very nice. It also seems funny that people seem to think they have a monopoly on the idea of who can care and who can want something good for people. The only people that can want something good for people are libertarians like Rad Vladdy. They're the only ones. Everyone else must hate people. I'm not so sure about that. I think there are different ways to help people, and I think you need to expand beyond your limited worldview. I wish you luck. And we've got Bitcoin news this morning. Did a whale sink Bitcoin? All of your technical analysis and your charts meant nothing as a whale moved money to Bitfinex and sold enough to sink the entire market. As they say, that's when roughly $800 million of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash were moved to multiple wallets, possibly for liquidation. Roughly 14% of the funds were moved to Bitfinex and Binance, two leading digital currency exchanges. Several hundred units of Bitcoin were also reportedly moved to BitMEX, one of the most popular derivative markets for cryptocurrency. According to investors, wrong. The funds belong to Dread Pirate Roberts. False, false. They were just from a Mt. Gox wallet. Nice try. Try again next time. Hack.com. And that's about it. I think we're going to take some calls on Bitcoin Talk Show. I was going to run a fundraiser about the Spider-Man game, but maybe we'll do that later. I don't know. Maybe we could do that now. I do have a Twitch channel. If you guys would like to see me play the new Spider-Man on PlayStation on Twitch, I will buy it if you guys donate. Otherwise, I'll wait till it's like $40 or $20 a few years from now, and I'll try to keep avoiding the reviews and so on and so forth. But it looks like a cool game, lots of Spidey swinging action, and I would play it live on the World Crypto Network Twitch channel for people who like video games. So if you like video games, donate now. But really, who cares? And we're taking calls on Bitcoin Talk Show. If you're around and like to call in, we'll keep the lines open for about half an hour here. You can call us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518 600 1949. People are talking Spider-Man in the chat, say it's pretty cool. He's got like some kind of cop suit I've seen. He becomes a cop. Pharaoh says he's sold 15 of those Spider-Man PS4 consoles already since Friday. That's pretty cool. I've heard good things. The last Spider-Man game that I played was Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2, I want to say. It was incredible. I just watched a whole movie about all of the different Spider-Man games, which of course I've played going back to the Nintendo and back to the Genesis and so on and so forth, and how each one of them was different. But what they did on PlayStation 2 was this programmer was especially interested in Spider-Man, and he created this web slinging system where it used actual physics. And games at the time didn't want to use actual physics because it cost so much money. And the last game they used actual physics on, they didn't raise any money. It didn't sell. It was described as hard to play. So they were concerned because you would swing on the web and you'd have to wait until your arc timed out before you jump to the next web. So it took some kind of, physics thinking. And they were concerned, and it was so funny. On all the future games, they went backwards on the swinging engine. And people were like, I like this game, but I like Spider-Man 2 on the PS4 better. So it was interesting stuff. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. Oh, maybe not. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. This is Dave from Youngstown. How's it going?
It's going good. What's on your mind about Bitcoin or maybe Spider-Man today?
I have seen none of the Spider-Man movies, even the one with is it Tobey Maguire? And
Tobey Maguire. Oh, that's a great one, man.
Years and years ago.
Well, I am horrified that I've seen all of the Spider-Man movies, even the terrible Sony ones that they did after that, and even the mediocre Spider-Man 3. So yeah, they're a mixture. I would definitely say Spider-Man 1's the best. It has the most fish out of water feeling. Of course, they decided to do the origin story yet again, but still, it's a good movie. They get through it fast. Of course, if they didn't get what's his name, the guy from the Evil Dead, to direct it, they were trying to get David Fincher, and David Fincher said, "Okay, I would do the origin story in 5 minutes in the opening credits," and then they didn't hire Fincher.
Oh, how many of them are there now?
Well, there's 3 of the Tobey Maguire ones. Then they made these kind of sad Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield under the Sony banner, and they were just terrible. And there's 2 of those. And then there's a new one with Tom Holland, and it's actually really good. Michael Keaton from Batman plays the villain. It's by the Marvel people. So basically, Sony owned the rights to Spider-Man. They made 2 good movies and then a third one with Tobey Maguire. Then they gave up on that, fired Sam Raimi, and they got this terrible new 2 movies. And then there's now a 5th one or a 6th one, I guess, that's pretty good. So there's 6 Spider-Man movies. Wow.
Wow, that's a lot. That's got to be what, 15 hours of content, something like that.
Yeah, and they're filming the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming right now. So there's going to be a 7th for sure.
I don't know where that, I keep telling people I'm going to need 3 lifetimes to consume all the media that I want to. And I'm not sure where that's going to end up on the list. But interesting, I ran into something Bitcoin related yesterday that I was surprised by, and I hadn't heard anything about it prior. Anybody who listens to maybe like Dave Smith or Michael Malice or a few shows around the internet, they're always kind of flogging this Bet DSI thing that is a online betting website that I decided to go ahead and sign up for it because I decided I'm gonna bet on some football this year, which is something I never do. I might have participated in the office pool every now and again, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And right there on the sign up, when you sign up to make your deposit, Bitcoin is one of the options, and I was pleasantly surprised by that.
That's pretty awesome. I did hear last year, I didn't read the details, but basically the Supreme Court has kind of legalized sports betting in the United States. We have our first donation to Tallycoin. Thank you so much, donor 0.00078. That's $5 towards our goal. We are now 8.33% towards playing Spider-Man, which I will do live on the internet on Twitch. I'll try to provide some commentary, but most of the commentary I provide when I play video games is cursing, getting mad, rage quitting, like, why doesn't this button work? So I don't know why anyone would want to watch that, but I'll give it a try. But yeah, sports betting seems to be much more legal than it used to be. I don't know what you did. You bet for someone to win the Super Bowl, or are you going to bet on individual games? What's the strategy?
No, I took Chicago for so they have to win by 7 today, and I took Cincinnati to win by anything. And those were both of the on Adam Carolla's show. He has this Vegas odds guy that's always on there named RJ Bell. So I just followed his picks because I don't know anything about it. Like I couldn't tell you, I couldn't name a single player from Chicago or Cincinnati.
Well, Chicago's looking mighty good because they've got Khalil Mack. I, for one, am certainly pissed at the Raiders and mad at John Gruden and think that they're giving away the season and some kind of, egoistic power play where Gruden didn't draft this team, so he can't win with them. So he's just trading and cutting them all. It's pretty terrible out there. I'm not sure why he's doing it, but they are ruining the last 2 years of the team in Oakland, if they even stay that long. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, he's a big defensive
I'm more of a, I'm a trader by nature, so it's like, well, in fact, yesterday you were mentioning about Elon Musk. It was great. I haven't watched the podcast yet. It's definitely on my list to get to today, but that mess with him smoking pot on on the thing, it's hard to point to things that are directly causal in the markets, but the price action on Friday had a most wonderful effect on my position in Tesla. I was, I've been betting against it a little bit now for a while.
So that's why it worked for you. Yeah, that was a really rough one for Tesla, and I've seen some of the more recent reports. The Air Force is saying that the Air Force is saying they're gonna have to look into the fact that he smoked pot on the air because he has contracts with them, so on and so forth. In one way, I really want it to be a blow for marijuana normalization. That they drank whiskey for an hour or 2 hours before they had what seemed like the smallest puff. People analyzing the video say that Elon Musk did not inhale. I don't know if that helps him at all, but
it doesn't make any legal difference as far as I know.
Well, legally, he's fine. He's in the state of California. However, the government contract, I don't know the details of whatever he signed with the Air Force, but the Air Force might consider that a violation. It's tough to say. Unfortunately, it's not having a normalization effect. People are not shrugging their shoulders and saying this doesn't matter. They're just freaking out that a CEO could do this. When in reality, I think we all know that CEOs drink a lot. They probably do coke and other drugs a lot, or speed,
doing all kinds of drugs for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's just Elon is the one who's
probably the least of their crimes.
Exactly, and he even said he doesn't smoke it. He didn't seem to be that interested. I think it was, I don't know. I think he drank too much whiskey. First of all, I watched it pretty carefully. Joe Rogan gets freaked out in the beginning.
Wait a minute here. You just said something that doesn't make any sense to me. Too much whiskey?
Well, let me tell you in comparison. So the thing starts out and they're talking about AI. And Elon Musk is, clearly super smart. Joe Rogan is pretending that he's dumb, but I think Joe Rogan's plenty smart enough. And they're talking about AI, and Elon's like, "Yeah, I tried to warn everyone no one's going to listen to me. No one's slowing down. No one's sharing their stuff. Everybody's just pounding right through this AI thing. And Joe Rogan's like, oh, this is too much. I need whiskey. Hand me the whiskey. And Joe pours himself what I'd say about like a finger, hands it to Elon. Elon, I just don't think he drinks whiskey. He pours himself 3, maybe 4 fingers. Joe seems to sip the finger once and put it away to the side. He's got an army of coffee cups and a French press. He's got a ton of stuff over there. But I don't really see him drinking that much in the video, whereas Elon keeps tipping it back like it's a water glass. And I'm not a good drinker myself, and I don't think Elon is either. And I think he, got a little tipsy on the air, and then some kind of curiosity. Joe was like, "Yeah, it's tobacco mixed with marijuana," and maybe he never tried a spliff before, so he was like, "Oh, I'll try a spliff because I'm trying new things today," or I don't know, but yeah, then it gets a little out of control after he does that. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. It's been a lot of fun, seeing all the memes and all the, they take that pretty unflattering looking picture, and plaster it all over the place, which, I get it. That's one thing that really kind of bugs me about the world is that sort of stuff works on people, it works on other people. I see it a lot just in everything that, one side will take a freeze frame from, and pick like the most unflattering possible picture and put it out there. Just kind of, I guess it's a visual poisoning of the well. Like, well, look at it. You don't want to listen to this guy's ideas, do you? You don't want to be like him. Look how ugly he is.
Well, and it's so funny because the whole interview is interesting and they talk about so many topics. And I really felt that Elon Musk was being honest several times with Joe. He didn't try to hide himself at all. A lot of times he was clearly thinking before he answered, and then he would, tell us his thoughts. And it just seemed it's such a great interview, and it's not being celebrated for that. People aren't saying this is 2.5 hours with one of the smartest guys around running some of the best companies, this kind of thing. Even his section where he talked about how the fossil fuel experiment was one of the worst in the history of mankind, which any study of the numbers will show you he's absolutely right. If you look at the damage to the environment or the ozone, if you look at the damage of pulling the oil out of the ground, there could be more potential damage. We've never had a world without oil underneath the ground. If we drain all the oil, we don't know what's going to happen. All of this, all of the metal, all of the parts, the way that the parts break down. Electric motors simply don't have the same kind of wear and tear that these other motors do. And it's entirely possible if we'd stuck with electric motors since the 1920s and 30s, when they did have electric cars, we would be in a better position. But instead, out of our blind capitalism and greed, and maybe some conspiracy theories involving the automotive companies who did legitimately buy up the Los Angeles streetcars, rip out the tracks, and destroy the entire system, who did buy the battery from who killed the electric car and kill the EV1 in the 90s to focus on the Humvee, who have also done other things. We've gone in this complete mad direction. And instead of everybody listening to the interview and saying, man, we should stop driving cars immediately, and we should stop this AI thing and really think about what we're doing. Instead, we're talking about this stupid joint or whatever, blunt spliff.
Yeah, but everybody has their own, it's not like there's a bunch of principled people sitting around having these sorts of things. There's plenty of sin on all sides as far as I'm concerned. And there's also no way to go back and do the experiment as far as what would have happened if, technology had gone in a particular different direction. And everything is not necessarily like, a lot of that sounds kind of US focused, and there's a whole another world out there, full of bad people and bad things. So I don't know. It's a lot.
Well, it was interesting, and I certainly don't look down on Elon for trying it, or even for trying it on the air, even though it's probably going to backfire for him. Someone in the chat was asking, "What's the big deal?" I think they have a more European perspective. Really, in America, for whatever it is, I think it's that old Puritan ethic, something like that. We love it when people do something we don't expect. Everyone expects Elon to be kind of buttoned down like a businessman or a scientist. And when he comes out there and, as far as I could see, acted like a human being for 2.5 hours, talking to Joe Rogan, and then they, enjoyed their human company, drinking some whiskey and having a blunt. Everyone freaks out because they don't expect him to just be a human being. They want him to be a businessman, or they want him to be a scientist, or to fit into some box that they have. And apparently this box doesn't mean hitting a spliff twice or whatever Elon did. So,
Well, just the entire idea of, he is the head of a publicly traded company, which, when you offer stock to the public, it is not a free market deal by any means. I mean, it is the most hyper regulated industry on earth ever. You can't. There are things that you are basically not allowed to do or say that you can get in all kinds of trouble for. And I'm surprised. The wheels of injustice fortunately turn but slowly. But I definitely expect him to be sued in some kind of way for violating his fiduciary obligations, or whatever, however they phrase it. Now, I don't set any stock in any of that. I think it's all bullshit. The government does what they want, whenever they want, to whomever they want, however they want. But they will have some kind of legal justification for whatever they do. And I think he's definitely in jeopardy, and I think the stock price is reflecting that.
yeah, but it's funny because he was also in jeopardy before that started. The HR director and the CFO seemed like they had planned to quit beforehand, and then he went on the Joe Rogan show. For all we know,
Sure.
he knows that these people are going to quit. He knows that they're probably mad about something, or there's some kind of issue, and that then he goes on Joe Rogan, drinks whiskey for 2 hours, chills out, maybe forgets where he is, forgets about the cameras, and then has this puff. It's funny that there's no reaction to him drinking whiskey. Elon Musk drank whiskey on the show, seemed a little tipsy, I think. Maybe he doesn't drink that much. But yeah, it was pretty strange. They entirely focused on the joint.
Well, I guess that's the thing that makes the old the old people, and the ones who vote the most, that's the thing that makes them the most upset, I guess. Although that's pretty well tailing off here, I think. I mean, it's straight up legal in how many states now, and not under some some cover of, oh, it's medicine. It's no, this is a plant that has psychoactive properties, and if you want to indulge in it, go right ahead.
That's right. And people are saying in the chat, yeah, they don't care. American corporations care. And it is funny, an American corporation, or a corporation in general, can poison a lot of people. No one cares. They can cancel contracts and ruin countries. They can move a factory from here to there, so on and so forth. But if a public company smokes a blunt, oh, stop everything. So.
Yeah, that's why I don't take, I don't know how other people feel, but most people's moral pronouncements, I don't take them seriously. I mean, I take them seriously as in they'll hurt me over it, but I don't, I have zero respect for them. I live life kind of like a hostage. Like, I can't overpower you, so I'll comply grudgingly, and I'll look for an opportunity to subvert you and hopefully have you hoisted on your own petard. But that doesn't mean I have any respect for you, other than the fact that, you'll hurt me, which is a pretty, not fun. Not a you don't want to be that guy.
Nah, you definitely don't. I was just looking at this Spider-Man video. They had Spider-Man riding the subway in his costume. Funny stuff.
All right. Well, I've drained the last of my first pumpkin beer of the season, which it's a kind of a rainy day here in Y-Town, and hopefully this rain will lift my entangled yacht out of the mess it's in down on the Mahoning, and I'll be able to float it down someplace in warmer climes. But This Shipyard Brewing I think they're in Maine, the Pumpkinhead. That was the first one of the season. There will be many more, I trust. And good times. And hey, go on with the show, my man. It's good to talk to you again.
Thanks so much for the call. Good luck today on your NFL games.
Oh yeah, I keep having it because I'm not really a bettor in that arena. I keep forgetting and then remembering. I hope I remember to check the score this evening.
Well, that's better than watching them. It could be quite stressful. I know people that bet on basketball and they go crazy with every point.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely not going to be yelling at the screen.
All right, thanks so much for your call, Dave. Give us a call anytime. And you can give us a call now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. It's interesting, Dave mentioned yachting. Yesterday, I was reading a little bit more of that Vonnegut book, Wampameters, Foma, and Grandfalloons. It's a collection of his nonfiction and other things that are just published around the place. And he did a story about how once he was given the option to go on the Kennedy yacht with a friend of his. And apparently the Kennedy yacht is some original 1920s yacht built for the Ford family and somehow got down to the Kennedys. And really interesting story by Vonnegut. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning, Bitcoin. My name is Mustafa.
Hey, Mustafa.
Not really sure. Somewhere in Indiana.
Somewhere in Indiana. All right, Mustafa, what's on your mind about Bitcoin or anything else we've been talking about today?
Oh, you guys were talking about Elon Musk, and I'm a big fan of the guy.
Oh, what'd you think of him smoking that blunt?
Everybody's talking about how he made a big mistake by taking a hit, or kind of sort of taking a hit of some pot, and he's a super smart guy, so I'm pretty sure that he doesn't make mistakes on a regular basis. I find that really hard to believe that he would just do it by accident, and be like, oh, oops. So I'm pretty sure it was calculated, a guy like that. If you listen to the podcast, I'm sure you have, and you hear the way he talks, like you can tell that he doesn't make mistakes, or he doesn't just, randomly decide to do something. He always thinks it through.
I'm not so sure. He seemed pretty pliable in that conversation with Joe Rogan. They started off early. Rogan freaked and drank the whiskey. Elon joined him. Joe was pushing the sensory deprivation tanks pretty hard. Elon kind of promised him that he would try it, which also is a yes. And then Joe was like, oh, if you keep going this way, I'm going to have to spark a spliff. Or he kept kind of like threatening it, kind of, because Elon was freaking him out with the artificial intelligence stuff and humanity having no chance and so on and so forth. And I don't know if he really made the decision. It wasn't like he got on there and he was like, I don't think he knew at the beginning of the show that he was going to smoke at the end. Do you?
I think he did. I think they, that I'm sure Joe Rogan and Elon have a conversation before the podcast starts. And, Joe Rogan asks him what is okay and what is not okay, let's think about the reason here. Okay. So Elon Musk says a few weeks ago that he wants to take his company private. Everybody freaks out. And it kind of seems like it was just like a hoax, or maybe he was just doing that, and, his stock prices kind of tank a little. And then he goes on Joe Rogan, starts smoking pot, maybe possibly even putting himself in jeopardy with SpaceX because, he had security clearances with the Air Force or whatever, and you're not allowed to smoke weed, if you have that type of clearance. So it's definitely putting him in the news, which is a good thing if you want, some attention from the public. But more importantly, if he's purposely trying to drop the price of his stock because he already told everyone a few weeks ago that he wants to take his company private, well, wouldn't that be like best case scenario for him to be able to buy back his shares?
It does seem, I mean, it would be a very grand plan, and he'd have to think about it in advance and everything. But yeah, it does seem like a pretty simple plan to drop the share price. You have Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whoever it is go out there and light one up kind of randomly on the Joe Rogan show. Doesn't exactly give you a lot of confidence in the CEO and his big plans and so on and so forth, right? It's a pretty easy for people to misinterpret it and sell it, right?
Right, exactly. And I mean, in a way, in the beginning of the podcast when they start talking about AI and how he kind of he's like, oh, have a fatalistic viewpoint on the world, and you guys are all just going to shit, and there's nothing I can do. I've given up. I've tried to warn people, and nobody listens. So he kind of steers the conversation in that direction. If you notice, like that, it's we're doomed. There's nothing we can do. Might as well just get drunk and get high. And then he does it. Right? He's like, then he starts to smoke and drink and just like forget it. So in a way, he is portraying to anybody that's in his same financial class that he's just giving up, kind of, in a way. But to us, or people like me, I guess, I thought it was great. I bought Tesla stock that day. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna invest in Tesla just because the prices are down, and this guy seems like he knows he knows what he's doing. And I don't know, I kind of respect the guy for doing what he did, to be honest.
Well, I definitely can't agree with him with the attitude that, everything is fucked. We may as well drink and get high. I've been there before myself, when these buildings started falling down on Tuesday. I was like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. This is not going to end well. So, yeah, I don't blame him on that, and certainly the AI is kind of an existential all or nothing challenge. But at other parts of the show, I liked so much what he said about making the future exciting, and that he gets excited when he thinks about humanity being a spacefaring civilization, not just because we could avoid the death of the Earth, but for other reasons. And then they started talking about the heat death of the universe, and Elon starts talking about even if we get the stuff off Earth, like we get the Shakespeare books and we take them off Earth, and Shakespeare survives the death of Earth, there's still the heat death of the universe when everything boils over, including Shakespeare, despite our attempts to save it. That was really depressing. That was really depressing. And you don't even hear that on the normal
That's
show.
something that's nowhere near close. He said something like 500 million years or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, but still, just to think about it, and then I really identified with a lot of the things Elon was saying about his brain never stopping and having trouble sleeping and trouble not having ideas. I'm definitely there. I kind of know what he's talking about. Joe Rogan seemed like he thought Elon was a space mutant or something, but he seemed a lot closer to myself and some other people that I've met and that I know. But I do think that you have an interesting point about how calculating was Elon Musk. Let's take a step back and let's say, certainly for us, I would love to go on the Joe Rogan show. I very much enjoyed Andreas's appearances and Neil deGrasse Tyson a week ago. And so David, or who was Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club. Incredible. I'd never heard him speak that much. So, Joe Rogan's doing a great job, and certainly we're all into him. But from the outside, Elon Musk is so much bigger than Joe Rogan. Certainly, Joe Rogan's a huge podcaster and all that. But Elon Musk is this force unto himself. Why does Elon Musk decide to go on Joe Rogan's show, and then especially to go for 2.5 hours? I know that there's no breaks on Joe Rogan, and I talk all the time about part of the power of Howard Stern is he gets him in there with no breaks. And there's not a 15-minute ad by where the HR, the PR person comes in and says, "My God, you can't say that. My God, you can't do that. You don't touch that joint. Put all this." They fix it right in those interviews. They fix it in the breaks, and then they come back from the break, and the guy becomes uninteresting. And you're like, "Why did that happen?" And it's the commercial break. So Joe doesn't have that. Howard doesn't have that. But again, Elon,
I think that's part of that's like one of the main things. One of the best things about that show is that he's able to get someone isolated like that and just pick their brain constantly for 2 hours. Where they forget that there's cameras watching and their audio is being broadcasted live and all that.
Absolutely. And we
You
have
know,
to ask ourselves, did Elon realize
in their
this
like home
beforehand?
environment, you know?
And if Elon knew it was going to be like this, then we can assume, like you're saying, that he knew, and he knew he was going to drink, and he knew he was going to smoke, and he knew he was going to make kind of a bad appearance for himself. But for anyone that actually listens to his words, it was a great appearance. He warned the country about AI in a very honest way. I don't think anyone heard it. Maybe if he wrote it on the side of the joint or something, it would have gotten more press. But yeah, I don't know if he was
I've heard it,
calculating.
yeah, and I mean, I've watched Elon talk about AI many times, and you know, every time he's ever done that, whoever's just sitting next to me while I was watching the video was always like, "Man, this guy's insane," and I'm like, "Well, he's not insane. He's super smart, and he's always went against the grain. He's always started these companies that people said were impossible and they were bound to fail, but they're all still here today." So he must know something. This guy's a freaking genius, you know, and I don't think people really give him that kind of credit. They just look at him as a business guy. He's not really a business guy. You know, he's a scientist. He's an inventor.
Definitely. And he made his own choices. He did what he did. And I see people in the chat they're talking about if they thought it was a good appearance, and sure, I thought it was a good appearance and certainly an interesting appearance. But really what the media took home from it, what the mainstream public is going to remember, unfortunately, is going to be this 30 seconds at the end where he smoked a little bit of a joint. I wish that we were
Yeah.
better than that as a society, but it's not looking that way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I still respect him for doing it. You know, even if it does put his company in jeopardy, SpaceX, not Tesla, because I don't think Tesla is going to be affected by it as much as his space company is because of the whole government Air Force clearance things or whatever. You know, but I mean, I don't know how it will affect him, but I just know that this guy is doing so much. You know, he's doing so much for the world, or he's trying to leave the world a better place than what he found it. And very little people with that amount of money and you know with that amount of influence in the world are doing anything close to what he's doing. You know, everybody's very greedy, trying to get rich. And it doesn't really seem like this guy's trying to get rich. I mean, he's already rich, obviously, but he's just trying to he's like a little kid trapped in a big adult's body, just trying to do things the same way a child would when he sees a problem, you know, like in a selfless way.
Well, and I think that's a good opinion of this because these are kind of like childlike ideas that him and Jeff Bezos are both expressing, but they're the only ones on the planet that I can see that are actually doing anything to get us there with SpaceX and Deep Blue, Deep Horizon, something like that. Jeff Bezos' rocket launching company. They both want to go to Mars. They both want to go to space, and for both of them, it's not really part of their main business. You know, Bezos's main business is selling everything in the world on Amazon. Elon's into cars. With Tesla, that's really what and solar roofs, I guess, with Solar City a little bit. And that's what he's supposed to be doing. But instead, they have these side projects, which are actually more interesting than their main projects. Uh, I wish the rest of the world would join them. Wish more people would have this childlike joy and wonder for space and the belief that we can get there and that it'll make us a better species, better people, better technology, all of these things. Something about
Yeah,
space is so
I'm not really sure
unfriendly.
about the whole space thing. You know, I'm not really. I guess that's just not something I'm interested in. You know, outer space and all that stuff is not very interesting to me. But what is interesting to me that Elon's working on is you know the hyperloop. You know the tunnels that he wants to build under big cities for traffic. You know, and that's I think it's a genius idea. You know, because he's like everybody's talking about flying cars. Everybody's been talking about flying cars for 30, 40 years or whatever. When are we gonna have flying cars? But he's like, just think about it. You know, if you got a little drone, a little tiny little handheld like drone that you're playing with, and how loud it is. Imagine if that thing is like 1,000 times bigger to be able to carry people and stuff. And imagine how bad it's going to be when people crashing into each other in the sky and then falling on your house, as opposed to if we just dig a hole in the ground and let people go underground and you know, that's like generally, if you just look at the problem, I think that's like the best solution ever.
It looked pretty solid, but he got me a little concerned when he started talking about these tunnels and the possibility of earthquakes and fault lines, and how these tunnels might even be vacuum sealed and how they have to be straight. And I thought, well, if there's a fault line and there's a crack and part of the tunnel goes out of straight, and then pretty soon we're shooting towards it, and that filled me with a little bit of dread. But I don't know, maybe they'll
Well,
work it out.
actually, what he was saying was that these tunnels are super safe. That they're like it's like a double layer. It's like two tunnels inside of each other, and that they're kind of like a snake exoskeleton where even if it moves around a little bit, it's not going to break. Like the seal won't be breached. I watched the podcast like 3 times, so I know I've memorized the damn thing. I think. But
Well, that sounds pretty good. That's better than I thought, and I definitely think I'm glad they're worried about it. If they're worried about it, they can get the engineers to fix it, and then by the time we ride one of those crazy things, we don't have to worry about it. But
yeah, definitely. I'm super excited about that, man. I can't wait to take my semi truck underground and go 100 miles an hour.
there you go, man. It'll be pretty cool.
But yeah, man, that's all I wanted to say about that. I actually wanted to call in yesterday about it, but you ended the show a little early.
Oh yeah, I had to take off yesterday.
Call and talk about Elon, the exciting guy.
Well, thanks so much for your call, Mustafa, and have a great day. Give us a call anytime.
For sure, man. Talk to you later.
All right. And you can give us a call now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. You might have seen the graphics from Spider-Man flying by here. We're running a very short fundraiser, hopefully one day only. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
How you doing? It's your Dutch guy again.
All right. How's it going, Dutch guy? How's Holland today?
It's going fine. I'm gonna pass on the Elon stuff because the entire joint thing is like a total non-subject for me. So
it really seems like it. I've been to Holland and all over Amsterdam. You can spark up wherever you want. No one cares. No one bothers you. No one looks down on you. People go to work. Life goes on. Doesn't matter.
Right. The only thing that that was fascinating to me was that apparently it was a big deal that it was a combination of tobacco and weed, whereas
Yeah,
like the norm over here. So
exactly, that really is the norm over in Europe, and most people smoke tobacco, and some of them have a little weed, and it doesn't matter at all. It's like having a drink, right? It's like you had one and you go home and everyone shakes it off. No one cares.
yeah, well, perhaps there is a stigma on it, but it's not really that big. It's like, okay, fine. Yeah, so it's not a big deal. So I was gonna pass on the subject, so I will. You started out with gaming, and I want to point people towards studio.satoshis.games. It's a gaming studio that is creating games, like simple arcade games right now, where you can play for Bitcoin using Lightning. I posted it up in the chat really somewhere earlier.
Let's see. Looking for it. It didn't come up. Oh, here we go. Lightning Network Games. Here we go. Satoshi Games. Cool. What do they have so far?
They have 5 games, I think. So there's some Bejeweled type game, only it's a little bit different. You have to, like, depending on the combinations that you get, you have to survive at night. And like the tiles are either monsters or swords or shields. So if you get a combination of 3 swords, you get sword points, so you can attack the monsters. And if you get shield, you can defend against the monsters. But if you like get a combination of 3 blocks of monsters, that you spawn an extra monster. I haven't completely figured it out. I've been testing around with it. And there is some like trading game. It's all very basic. I'm not sure they actually have the Lightning stuff done yet as to where you can actually get paid. But the idea is that there are like mini arcade games, and you can join the competition. So you pay like $3, I think, and then after 24 hours, the top 3 get paid out.
Cool.
Something like that.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, it was one of the guys that was at the Lightning Hack Day. So I figure I give them a shout out because you talked about gaming on the Bitcoin Talk Show. So
Oh, absolutely. And I think gaming should be a part of this show and a part of Bitcoin. And it's certainly a part of the internet. And a lot more people are into games than they used to be. And the games are getting a lot better. So it's pretty neat. But I put the link in the chat. People can check that out at studio.satoshis.games. Interesting stuff. Cool.
I think it's a good niche to try this stuff out, right? It's more engaging than Satoshi's Place, I think, which was
And
fun for a while, but
yeah. Well, all those graffiti wall things, eventually they just get overwhelmed. So at first it's kind of fun, then it's kind of advertising, and then it's out of control, and then maybe it cools down a little bit. But it was fun to hear Elon yesterday. He mentioned games as well, saying they're putting Atari games onto the Tesla screen, and they'd worked out a touch screen version of Missile Command. You didn't have to use the roller ball. So
which like might make it too easy, because I a while ago at a blockchain hackathon, they actually had arcades there, and you had that one with the ball, and it was such a pain, right, to control it, but it's kind of the fun, I guess. So we'll see.
it does make it pretty fun, and it makes it it feels kind of random and out of control. Like no matter what you do, you can't get the marker back and forth fast enough to kill those things. And of course, everyone knows that the whole fun of Missile Command is it always ends the same way. Everyone dies.
It's the user interface and control systems. It's a double-edged sword, I think. I noticed it with transition from StarCraft to StarCraft 2, because I've been playing StarCraft Brute Wars basically since when it came out, and then when StarCraft 2 came out, it was so smooth. Like in StarCraft, you can only select 12 units, and in StarCraft 2, you can like select infinite units, and spellcasters. Just if you have a group of spellcasters and you cast a spell, one of them cast a spell, instead of in Brute War, they're just dumb and they all cast it at the same time. And it's like it got so smooth and easy that it's I don't know. It just but maybe that's just my nostalgia and being so used to the old stuff. But
Yeah, I tried it out. I never really got past original StarCraft and Brood War, but yeah, I used to play online and in LAN games all the time. We'd get everyone together down at the computer lab, and we'd all play StarCraft or Warcraft back when it was similar to StarCraft. It
right,
was pretty cool.
right.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Warcraft 2 when the BattleNet edition came out, because like that was like at the beginning of online gaming.
Yeah, I never liked the specialty units with the casting and the spells. I always liked it more like Command and Conquer, where you just had, I have 100 tanks and you have 20, so I'm going to roll right over you. So,
Right.
yeah, I saw they're building a new Command and Conquer for iOS. I don't think I'm going to like it, but I wish they would make a nice new Red Alert or Red Alert 2 or any of those. And the great thing about Command and Conquer is they did all the work on the storyline and the videos and the other world, and it was a little like
The live action scenes.
yeah, all the live action scenes. I was just way into it, and I love the story of the GDE and the Nod, and you'd go play the other side, you'd be evil, and you'd play the good side, you'd be good, and I just thought those are some great games. But yeah, I used to love real-time strategy games. Those were the best.
Yeah, the 90s, the late 90s were like the RTS golden days.
Pretty much, yeah. It just got out of control after that. So
Right. Yeah, and it was kind of done, right? After StarCraft, it was kind of I think just StarCraft hit the nail on the head with like the 3 different races being completely different, and but actually over time being so incredibly balanced.
that was it. Yeah, it was the balance, the way that they were weighted against each other. And, with a Zerg, you could rush in there and get an early advantage. But if you don't kill enough things, the other person's going to build it up and it's going to swing back on you. Yeah, it was really great with StarCraft. Personally, I just got tired of memorizing those trees of you can build this and you can build that and you can build this. And Age of Empires kept coming out with more and more trees. And I started to realize that all the games were the same. And I was like, I'm just memorizing trees. I'm just memorizing maps in Quake. I just need to know where I pop and where the weapons are and where you get the rocket launcher. And it kind of paled for me. And then I never really got into online gaming because I thought I'd get totally addicted to World of Warcraft or Star Wars Galaxies or something like that, and I would just give up what little real life I had.
Exactly, I skipped on World of Warcraft because I thought like, okay, I cannot finish this game. So
yeah. What are you gonna do if you can't finish it? Yeah, absolutely.
Right. What's the point? I'm not even gonna bother. Yeah, although like I don't necessarily agree with the Quake thing. It's like I understand it could get a drag, but it's like it's just this adrenaline rush. Just
Sure. Yeah, I enjoyed Counter-Strike and Half-Life back in the day, and they had some interesting new characters. But then a lot of it went into stealth, right? There was the whole PS2 with Metal Gear Solid, and you had to sneak around, and that's just not my style. I'm more like running in with machine guns. If anything, I'd be sniping from far away. But then also, what was great about Half-Life is you could run around and snipe people. So I could use the sniper rifle as my main weapon and just see people hit the snipe button, pop them in the head, see people hit the snipe button, pop them in the head. It was fun.
It had a comeback with I guess Doom and the Wolfenstein, the fast paced shooters where it's like, no, you not don't hide behind a corner, just go in, shoot everything, get more ammo, get more hit points, and then keep going.
Well, and some of these things you go and you think, wow, I should use actual military strategy. Like we should actually go around the back of them and we should shoot them from behind and all of these kind of things. So it did have a little bit more strategy to it, but still good games. And there are so many now.
Yeah, so I think it's a good niche for Lightning to test itself with these kind of things. I can like more engagement, more transactions, see how the network handles it.
Definitely. I think it's a good idea and it's good to move Lightning forward.
I do wonder like if Lightning is going to be enough, if we like probably going to need a third layer, because it's like the Lightning network, it's nice, but the fact that you need the liquidity in the system, in the channels, in order to make it function, kind of makes me think it's going to be something more akin to a interbank settlement network.
I don't know. I mean, there's enough liquidity in the network right now, right? There's like 100 million or some kind of thing. There's a lot of money in it. So you could send most of your small transactions, but you couldn't send a transaction bigger than 100 million or whatever's in there.
Right, but there's also there's like the problem of receiving money. That's the problem is not paying money. It's kind of easy. It's receiving money. So like, and if you sell stuff, right, then it's then it might be straightforward because people are opening channels to you. But the moment you, as a consumer or a regular guy, need to receive money on Lightning, you kind of need someone to facilitate the liquidity towards you in order for other people to pay you, because they're not going to open channels directly towards you. It's just too much of a hassle for like the entire consumer base. I'm talking millions or billions of people here.
Mm-hmm. So they'll use like hub and spoke. They'll use like a more popular server to send the money through.
Right. I guess we're like, it's going to be something like that. And but maybe it's going to like go down to a third layer where you have like eCash servers or something, where that's where like most of the transactions are going to take place between people. And then those networks are then settled on Lightning, and those are actually settled on Bitcoin. I think it's probably somewhere around there, but we'll see. We'll see how it will have to develop.
Yeah, I definitely think
hard sell, right?
Yeah, a third layer or more layers seems possible to me. This idea of trying to compete with Visa and having as many transactions per minute as they do, and so on and so forth. We're going to need more layers. The idea of keeping everyone's coffee transactions in the real blockchain forever. You can imagine the weight of that, just how many megabytes and how many gigabytes and petabytes, even that would be. So.
So, but that's a hard sell. I think like it was useful for Bitcoin at the beginning to like you can have instant transactions, which is false, and they're cheap or they're free, which is also false. So this false narrative, I think, benefited Bitcoin in the beginning, but kind of backfired in the manifestation of Bitcoin Cash, I guess.
Well, I think with the Bitcoin Cash, you want to say like, is there anything we could have done differently to get them to stay? And there really wasn't. Whatever it was that broke the camel's back, they were waiting for it anyway. They were just looking for an excuse to leave. And I've had this with a lot of the people that I've tried to work with on the internet here. And you try to negotiate with them and you talk about big blocks and small blocks and you talk about science and you talk about the value of working together and how we would all benefit and how, when people get their start, you got to help them up and how nobody gets anywhere without any help. But it keeps coming back to the same thing. They're just looking for an excuse to leave so they can do it all themselves, so that they can get all the benefits. And it's just this greed and this ego. And if you look at Jihan and Roger Ver and even Craig Wright, supposed fake Satoshi, shouldn't they have enough? Should they have enough money and power and all these things? Can't they be happy? But they really can't, right? There's this hole inside of them, and they keep filling it, and they keep creating new YouTube channels, and they keep getting more and more desperate, and they go on cruises, and they're just going everywhere, like trying to fill this hole, and it doesn't work, right? Like Roger he was Bitcoin Jesus. He was revered. People loved him, and now they hate him because he had to try to fill this hole. And that even the millions of dollars or billions or whatever Roger made, all these companies he invested in, all this travel that he's done, the world that he could have seen, he can't see that world. There is no joy there. Like there's no museums for Roger. This is just war and popularity and ego and bragging and fighting, and it seems really base. I don't know why they're doing it, but again, I think they're doing it because of the ego and the greed, and they just want more.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to gauge these people's motivations. I think like Craig Wright's probably easier than Veer. I'm not settled on Veer, whether he actually means what he says or that there is some alternative agenda. And also like there was gonna be a split, whatever the subject was gonna be, because it's a consensus network. Consensus is something political, not technical. So it was bound to happen, whatever the issue was gonna be. But I do think the early days narrative of Bitcoin is it's difficult, right? The moment you start to talk about like the whole narrative is like Lightning Network is going to be banks, right? It's going to be a banking system, and well, to some extent, it's true, right? It's speculative on what the development's actually going to be, but let's assume that it's going to be like a quote unquote banking system. It's still a win. It's a huge win, right? Because we first of all we deconflated banking operations. If we say like banks do savings and loans, they facilitate the payment infrastructure, and they do financial instruments. And before Glass-Steagall, the last part was separated, but now it's integrated again. So what we separated the payment system from it, and that's like the Lightning Network. And the savings and loan parts can be done by somebody else. It's still a service, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done by the same institution called quote unquote a bank. And I think the biggest win is, so we broke up the bank in that sense, but the biggest win is that you don't need a license, because there is not a liquidity problem in the sense of like you can be a gradual bank. You can be a bank providing $10 of liquidity or $100 or $1 million. But because the system itself is intrinsically secure, you don't need another party giving out licenses to operators saying, okay, this is a decent operator because he has so few millions in the bank in order to provide the liquidity and be safe enough as a financial institution. So we got rid of the licenses, banking licenses, and that's a huge win. But the distributions of responsibilities and the services that people provide and the responsibilities that people hold, that's something that you don't remove with technology. And that kind of optimism, it's hard, right? It's hard to get that message across because it hits against a lot of hopes and dreams people had in terms of Bitcoin.
Well, and really, what's the problem with banks? My problem with banks is mainly with the central banks who print money. If we could stop them from printing money, everything would be a lot more fair. When you buy a house, they wouldn't just write it down on a piece of paper. You'd actually have to pay the money. You'd actually have to pay for what you buy. So that's my main problem. As far as the idea of holding money and giving it to people, that's fine. But I think the problem there comes with this new word everyone's using all the time, rehypothecation. So if you have more gold tickets than you have gold, then you're a bad bank, in my opinion. Although, of course, our banks are run on the theory of, they run at 10, 20x. They run tons more loans than they have actual money. What I think is great about the Lightning Network that's a change from the banks, if we were to compare, say, the Lightning Network with the possibility of the Bitcoin ETF that we keep talking about. The Bitcoin ETF, Andreas and everyone else is worried that they're going to print more ETF tickets than they have Bitcoin. And of course, that the company is a black box. We're never going to be able to see inside. I would say with the Lightning Network, we've solved this problem because you actually have to have the Bitcoin to use the Lightning Network. As far as I know, there's no way to have fake Bitcoin on there or to front that you have more than you have. So in that way, it seems like a real improvement on the idea of banks. And I don't know, what else would go wrong there. So
Yeah, well, at a cost, because the system is very rigid. That's the cost. The Lightning Network would be so much smoother if you would have debt in the system. But it would make it insecure because then you are now having Bitcoin that cannot be settled on chain, right? So it's an added risk. But it is a trade-off because now you have to give the liquidity up front. You have to give the money up front in order to be able to spend and receive. And if you would apply debt to the system, you could receive the money, the Bitcoin, and then at a later date finance it, which makes the system a lot smoother. So that's a trade-off. I don't think we should put debt into the Lightning Network, but it's a trade-off in the system there.
it is interesting to create an entire system without debt, an entire system based on actually owning and actually paying, and the real money goes around. We'll have to see.
That's true, and that's like another win is that we can now actually do it, right? Because we can now cryptographically secure, and it's not necessarily cryptographically. It's just the fact that we have the single source of truth being the Bitcoin blockchain. So we have these contracts that are put in these blocks, so we can check if the Bitcoin's actually there. That's tied into the Lightning Network. That allows us to audit this system real time. Whereas in the old days with gold in vaults and notes, you'd have to periodically audit it and then trust the auditor, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have a system where we can basically do it real time. So we got rid of that problem.
And what's great about the United States is we've changed our periodic audits to never. So we've never audited the gold in Fort Knox. The last time we checked was in 1950. So yeah, I'd say it's about a 80-year, maybe 100-year audit cycle right now, which is really good for this country. I think it's going to be a great improvement. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So silly.
But yeah, I think Bitcoin's better because it's provable. While we haven't seen an exchange do it in a long time, exchanges could provide us with the public address for their cold storage. They could show us that they are liquid, that they have X amount of Bitcoin being traded and X amount of Bitcoin on cold storage. And we could say, wow, that adds up. That's great. We could have watchdog groups or even maybe AI things where it's like, if this number changes by 20%, tweet about it. If this number goes to 0, tweet about it, text this guy, text that guy, you know, put out the word, something like that. It could be monitored, but then of course, the companies don't want that because then we could see exactly how they store their money, how they secure it, how many levels of cold storage they have. The more you get somebody to describe something, the more likely you are to be able to take it from them. So.
All right, it gets harder to defend it, I guess, and also a lot of the systems and services that would make this stuff easier are not really developed that much. Yeah, the Big Casa or something, where they manage funds in multi-sigs.
Yep, Casa Holda or something. I
Right,
don't know. They're not great with names. It will be renamed. Mark my words when they get a marketing guy.
right. But I've been working that on that same problem for a while now, and I think like we need to get notaries into this system because everyday people are not like not just everyday people. More importantly, institutions, businesses, they're not going to put their money on a ledger or a Trezor and put it in a vault somewhere. Maybe some mom and pop store will do it, but like a big business is not going to do that. So we need other systems, and you can do very subtle and subtle ways of managing Bitcoin with like doing is putting it in a smart contract in a multisig where you have a notary somewhere who has to sign off on certain types of transactions, just to make sure that you don't that it's not getting stolen one and you don't lose it too, right?
That would be great if there was a better online multi-signature storage solution, like you're saying. You could lock the money up. One of the things I think we need for a long time is a dead man switch, like an easy one for normal people, where you don't have to pay a lawyer. Where you know if you don't check in, it sends the money to your best friend, something like that. And especially for all these hackers, I keep hearing about so and so a hacker stopped, so and so a hacker stopped, and then the feds come in and seize all the money. If they had any kind of a switch or a control, send it to charity, maybe we'd have some richer charities and less of the money would be going to the government auction. So I don't know.
Or we get murderous charities. That could also be a probability.
There you go. There you go. Bad charities, or yeah, send it to someone worse, or send it to the insurance guy, and he comes in and takes care of business. It could be
Killing for cancer research. That would be
killing for cancer research. That would be great. We just had a donation here on Tallycoin. Thanks so much to donor 0.000785. We are now up to $12.65. We are 21% of the way towards our goal of $60. If we do hit $60, I'll go buy this Marvel Spider-Man for the PS4 and I'll play it on Twitch so you guys can hang out and we will try to play some Spider-Man. It sounds pretty cool.
all right. So well, I sent you the first presentation from the Lightning Hack Day was the one on Schnorr and Taproot on Lightning. So check if you received it in good order and it's all right, and then you can upload it.
Sure thing. I'll give it a try, and we'll work on some other ways of maybe streamlining this process, trying to make it easier. But you are starting to get it now. Editing video is it's a bitch, isn't it? You download a giant file, you throw it in the thing, you make 3 or 4 cuts, and then you wait half an hour to render the darn thing, and then you got to upload the thing. That's 15 minutes, and I got to download it, and I got to upload all this stuff. Like, it's not too easy, is it? Huh?
Well, I got experience with it. I did a lot of work for an online interview platform that manages like interviews of an hour long. and tons of them that upload daily. So I know how the process works, but it's well, I have a separate system. I have a separate system for my Bitcoin node that's basically only running the Bitcoin node and the Lightning node. So I can do it on that thing, and it doesn't bother me. So I can do other stuff with it. So it's not that's not the biggest issue. Like time, I got time. It's just a good coordination, planning, and logistics, right?
All right. Sounds good. We'll keep it going. We'll keep it up. I know I've got some editing projects I thought of yesterday, but I've got to take care of those. So, but
All right,
thanks so much for your call, and thanks for your help on the lightning hacking stuff, and good stuff with Satoshi's games. It sounds like a good idea.
yeah, people check it out. It's funny. All right, cool. See ya.
Cool. I'll talk to you later. And you can give us a call now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518 600 1949. And I don't want to put out any spoilers about my new editing project, but I did watch Howard Stern's Private Parts yesterday. Once again, of course, I've seen it before. I saw it in the theaters when it came out. But yeah, I had some ideas. I had some ideas for the movie. So I might make an edit of that. I don't know how long that edit will be on the internet. Several of my edits have been removed from the internet. I did a 7-minute recut of San Andreas. My version is all earthquake. So it's all earthquake. It's pretty fun. And you guys might have heard, or you might not have heard of my Star Trek ships only movies. Star Trek ships only. You can Google that. And at first, it was just me. I just put it out there on the internet, and I was the only one talking about it. But eventually, we got some pretty cool news articles in Boing Boing and Engadget and some other great stuff. But I made these movies here. Let's watch Star Trek 3. You can watch all of Star Trek now without any people. So it's just the ship. It's the story of the ship. Let me see if I can put the speed up here. Yeah, I'm going to put it on 2x speed, so we'll watch it fast. But yeah, this is the story of the ship. Most of the movies are the same. The ship flies somewhere, and then it flies back. It's pretty funny in these movies because they fly different ships. So sometimes it's not the Enterprise the whole time. At other points, I count other things as ships. This is just some scenery. That torpedo counts as a ship because it flew through the sky, you know. But yeah, I do some edits sometimes. It's fun. I always wanted to do this. Only recently did the technology get good enough where I could actually edit the movie and not have the audio not match what they're talking about, not have it skip or anything. It looks like pretty good quality. So you can check those out. Star Trek ships only. I also have quite a few other ones I've done. I did the Star Wars ships only recently. I did Spaceball ships only. Hunt for Red October ships only. Top Gun ships only. Supposed to be somewhere. That one might have gotten taken down. Aw, where's my Top Gun? That doesn't seem right. There's Red October. What happened to Top Gun? Oh well, I'll look into that later. Probably a copyright claim. The price of Bitcoin is 6,370. Still up a little from the 6,094 that we touched before, but certainly down from 7,411. We're checking out the Spider-Man fundraiser. Thanks to 2 donors, we are 21% of the way there. So if you guys have a Bitcoin wallet on your phone, maybe you have some petty cash that you use for buying drinks or giving out tips or giving out free dollars, you could scan this QR code on your right. As you can see, DJ Booth has made some more updates to Tallycoin. He put the picture of the Twitter account that you log in with on your QR code. That's pretty cool. A custom QR code. And he cleaned up the interface. And now you can have a profile on Tallycoin that will show all of your fundraisers. So here it is right now. I have just this one fundraiser. Our goal is $60. So far, we've raised $12.66. If we succeed at our goal, I will go buy the new Spider-Man game. It looks very cool. And I will play it with you or for you on Twitch. on the PS4. So if you're into Twitch and you're into video game streaming and you want to support this show and this fun idea, I think it's a fun idea. If you don't think it's a fun idea, that's cool. You don't have to play. But I thought it'd be fun. We're also taking your phone calls right here on Bitcoin Talk Show. We have about 15 minutes left. We could probably get 2 or 3 more calls in. If you guys like to call us now at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. And it was great to watch the Howard Stern movie yesterday and to be reminded once again, what did Howard do that really got people interested? Howard shared, right? Howard shared and he was honest. Now, of course, Howard talked about, procreation and reproduction and said all kinds of words and got all into it. But that's the same thing that you hear when you go up and watch early George Carlin videos. I remember there's some early George, or not even early, he does it late too, but George Carlin talks about bodily functions. He talks about picking your nose. He talks about farting. He talks about these things that everyone has in common, but nobody talks about because we still have this leftover from Victorian society where things are supposed to be uptight and things are supposed to be serious. You can't just be exploring everything. But I think what Howard and George Carlin and other people showed us is that we have to explore everything. We have to talk about everything, and that honesty is the only way that we're going to learn or get anywhere. So as soon as you stop being honest, that's when you stop learning. So got to watch out for that. But we are taking your calls here on Bitcoin Talk Show. You can give us a call at SKYPE World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. I do have my Bukowski poetry book here. We could go back to poetry. I could try to read some of the chat and the comments. It's been scrolling pretty fast. Some interesting conversations going on there. Some ups and some downs. Maybe just a little bit more Bukowski before we end the show. Upon reading an interview with a best-selling novelist in our Metropolitan Daily newspaper, that's the title of the poem. He talks like he writes, and he has a face like a dove, untouched by externals. A little shiver of horror runs through me as I read about his comfortable and assured success. I'm going to write an important novel next year, he says. Next year? I skip some paragraphs, but the interview goes on for 2.5 pages more. It's like milk spilled on a tablecloth. It's as soothing as talcum powder. It's the bones of an eaten fish. It's the damp stain on a faded necktie. It's the gathering hum. This man is very fortunate that he is not standing in line at a soup kitchen. This man has no concept of failure because he is paid so well for it. I'm lying on the bed reading. I drop the paper on the floor. I hear a sound. It's a small fly buzzing. I watch it flying, circling the room in an irregular pattern. Life at last. Funny stuff. But it looks like we're heading towards the end of Bitcoin Talk Show. I've talked for a long time, and it seems like we're running out of calls. We did pretty good here on our fundraiser. Maybe if we had about $8 more, we would be about 30% of the way there, and maybe I could just fund the rest. I do think that we'll be playing Spider-Man later, but I know that we'll be playing Spider-Man later if you guys chip in and help. So thanks so much for your support here. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. I saw at one point we had about 150 live viewers. I think everyone enjoyed the conversation about Elon Musk and his questionable smoking decisions, or maybe his questionable decision to go on the Joe Rogan show. But I enjoyed the idea that maybe Elon knows more than we do. Maybe Elon was trying to tank the stock price of his company on purpose so he could buy it back cheap. Maybe it was all a plan. We don't know. But Elon Musk, a very interesting guy. Definitely recommend you check out the Joe Rogan interview. I watched the whole thing. I didn't get to watch it a couple of times like Mustafa, but it was good. It's a good interview. I even watched it on normal speed. So thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with yet another episode of Bitcoin Talk Show. Until next time, bye bye.